The dark blue pickup let out two sharp honks outside my place on Memorial Day, while my wife Karen stood in the doorway of our dining room, her lipstick bright as a fresh betrayal. "Stop acting foolish, Mike," she said, snatching her handbag with hands that trembled just enough to show she knew exactly what she was up to. "I need this evening to feel wanted again." Her words slammed into me like a crowbar to the ribs. 22 years married, and there she was, stepping out our front door to hop into another guy's truck on a holiday meant for family. "Karen, don't go through with this," I pleaded. She spun around, her expression hard as a frozen sidewalk in February. "Don't stay up waiting." The door banged shut, loud enough to shake the picture frames. Through the living room curtains, I saw her slip into the passenger seat of that pickup. The plates screamed Texas, not local. The driver sported a gym tank top with Iron Pulse scrawled on the back. Big dude, broad shoulders, ink curling up his arm. The engine rumbled and they peeled out. I stood there, maybe 10 minutes, as the house creaked around me. Our daughter Ellie was upstairs, probably acting like she hadn't caught the argument. The quiet felt like standing in a gutted warehouse, waiting for the debris to settle. I headed to the garage. My workbench sat in the corner, built a decade ago from sturdy maple, scratched from years of fixing things. Above it, my tools hung in neat rows, screwdrivers, pliers, saws, every piece with a purpose. I yanked open the bottom drawer and pulled out my job log. Every builder keeps one, a spiral notebook to track the pulse of a worksite, who's slacking, who's cutting corners, who's worth keeping an eye on. I'd filled 4 of these over the years, but this one still had blank pages. Flipping to a fresh one, I scribbled, "Memorial Day. Karen leaves with some guy, Texas plates, gym logo, Iron Pulse." My grip on the pen stayed steady. 2 decades in construction taught me every issue has a fix. Every building has flaws. You just gotta know the design inside out. I was still writing when Ellie tiptoed into the garage. "Dad?" Her voice was soft, cautious. At 16, she had Karen's piercing gaze, but my hard-set jaw. "Where's Mom at?" "Out," I muttered, eyes glued to the notebook. "With who?" I looked up. Ellie was too sharp for easy lies. "Someone she shouldn't be with." She plopped onto a stool nearby, pulling her knees up. "I saw texts on her phone last week. She left it by the sink while she was in the shower." Her voice dropped low. "Some were sent to Uncle Greg." My pen froze. Greg, my brother, my partner in the contracting business for 10 years, the one guy I'd trust with my life. "What texts?" "Pictures, mostly," Ellie said, her face flushing. "This big dude posing in a gym mirror. Mom asked Uncle Greg if he seemed trustworthy and low-key." A chill crawled down my back. I grabbed my phone, dialed Greg, and put it on speaker. He picked up after 2 rings. "Mike, what's good, man?" In the background, I heard weights clanging, music thumping, the unmistakable hum of a gym. "That music ain't coming from your desk," I said. Silence, except for that gym noise. "Mike, hold up." I hung up. Ellie stared at me, her eyes too wise for her age. "Dad, what's the plan?" I glanced at my job log at the page I'd just started. Then I picked up the pen. "I'm gonna see this through." The next morning, I parked my truck outside Greg's office in downtown Wichita, watching him through the glass. He was pacing, phone to his ear, waving his hands like he was selling someone a load of nonsense. When he stepped outside, his grin was too wide, too fast. "Mike, buddy, you look rough. Everything cool?" "Get in the truck," I said. "Look, about yesterday." "Get in, Greg." He climbed in and I pulled out without a word. We drove through the city, past the library and the old grain mill, until we hit a quiet park by the river, where we used to skip rocks as kids. "Want to explain why you're helping my wife step out on me?" Greg's face cycled through shock, denial, then landed on fake innocence. "Damn, Mike, you think I'd do that?" "I think Karen's been talking to you about some guy tied to Iron Pulse. I think you've been giving her tips, and I think you knew where she was headed yesterday." He stared at the river for a long beat. "Look, brother, marriage is messy. You and Karen, you've been together since we were teenagers. Maybe she needs, what, a little freedom? Room to sort herself out. That's how it works these days, Mike. You don't own her." The words burned like acid. "That's how it works, huh?" "Yeah," he said. "People drift. They find their way back. It's not the end of the world." I studied his face, searching for the guy who showed me how to swing a hammer and helped me build my first shed. All I saw was a stranger spouting lines that sounded rehearsed. "Karen feed you that speech?" "Nobody feeds me anything," he snapped, his jaw tight. Then why does it sound like you practiced it? I turned the key in the ignition. We'll find out. That afternoon, I rolled up to a small office near the city hall in Topeka. The sign read Jenna Holt, Private Investigations. Jenna, a former deputy in her late 30s, had eyes that caught every detail. She'd tracked down deadbeat clients for me a few times. Mike Turner, she said, pointing to a chair across her desk. What's the job? I need dirt on a gym called Iron Pulse, owner, leases, money trail. Also, pull anything public on Karen's finances and Greg's side hustles. She jotted notes on a legal pad. Is this business or personal? Both. All right, she said. Heard about the woman who left in that pickup yesterday. Saw you watching from your window. It looked like a rough moment. I wasn't shocked. Jenna knew everything within a 5-block radius. You caught that? Hard to miss, she said, setting her pen down. How far do you want me to go? Far enough to know who's playing me. That's $600 plus expenses. I wrote the check without blinking. 20 minutes later, I was in Vince Russo's office at the city planning department. Vince handled inspections for most of the construction jobs in town and had been a thorn in my side for years. Turner, he said, eyes on his screen. What's up? The Cedar Avenue project file. You said final approval would be ready today. Vince finally looked up from his screen, his smirk sharp as a blade. Yeah, about that Cedar Avenue file, he said, leaning back in his chair. Seems we lost some documents. Could be a couple weeks to straighten it out. Total nonsense. That delay was holding up a $75,000 job. How long's it going to take? I asked, voice tight. He shrugged, smug as ever. Maybe if you had a tighter grip on your home life, your work wouldn't hit these snags. His words stung like a backhand. He knew about Karen. Probably the whole damn town did by now. You want to run that by me again? I growled. I'm saying a guy who can't keep his family in line shouldn't be shocked when his projects get extra scrutiny. I stood up slowly, towering over his desk. Vince was all soft edges, a paper pusher hiding behind City Hall. Throwing a punch would only screw me over. I'll keep that in mind, Vince, I said, turning for the door. You do that, he called after me. Out in the parking lot, I was unlocking my truck when someone shouted my name. I turned to see Pete Larson, a subcontractor I'd known for years, jogging over. Mike, rough deal, huh? He said, his grin uneasy, like he was about to say something mean and dress it up as friendly. What's that, Pete? Your wife stepping out like that? Take guts, I'll give her that. My blood boiled. Hey, Pete, if my woman pulled that, I'd... He froze when he saw my face. Hey, I'm just saying, man, everyone's talking. The lot seemed to spin under my feet. Everyone? Come on, Mike. She ain't exactly subtle. That gym rat she's with? He's been mouthing off at Rusty's Tavern all week, bragging about his married fling. Real classy, right? Something broke inside me. I took 2 steps toward him, and Pete stumbled back, hands raised. Mike, chill. You got something to say about my wife. Say it straight. A few city workers nearby stopped to stare. Pete's eyes flicked around, desperate. I didn't mean anything by it. Sure you did, I said, stepping closer. He tripped over a curb and landed hard in the dirt, his face red as a brake light. Damn it, Mike! I walked away before I did something that'd land me in cuffs. That evening, Jenna called with her first report. Your brother Greg's got 4 LLCs set up in the last 8 months, she said. One of them, Badger Ventures, just inked a lease for a spot on Maple Street. What's on Maple? Iron Pulse Gym. Looks like Greg's bankrolling your wife's new friend. I sat in my truck outside that gym, staring at its glowing sign through the windshield. The place was hopping, guys in muscle tees strutting in and out, the kind of spot that thrives on egos. My phone pinged, a text from Karen. We need to talk. Meet tomorrow? I typed back. Saw the lease for Iron Pulse. Greg's name's all over it. Her reply came quickly. No divorce. Stop poking around. I smirked, no joy in it, and wrote, Fine, you'll weather this. Saturday night, I walked into Rusty's Tavern, knowing what I'd find. The place was packed. Construction crews, city clerks, off-duty cops. The air smelled of stale beer and bad choices. Karen was at the bar with him. The guy was just as I pictured. 6'5", maybe 230 pounds, arms like steel beams, and a face that loved a mirror. He wore a fitted shirt that screamed gym life, and a silver chain that glinted under the lights. Karen spotted me first, her face going pale, then flushing. Mike, what are you doing here? Grabbing a beer at my local spot. I nodded to the bartender, Jimmy, who looked like he'd rather be mopping floors. Who's your buddy? The guy swiveled on his stool. Up close, he was younger than I thought, maybe mid-30s, with the cocky grin of someone who's never heard no. You must be the husband, he said, offering a hand. Troy Vance. I ignored the hand. Must be the guy stirring trouble. Troy chuckled, a rough, grating sound. Trouble? Man, I didn't cause nothing. Your wife came looking for me. That's so? Yup. He draped an arm around Karen's shoulders, and she didn't flinch. She needed a man who could step up, you know? The bar went quiet, heads turning our way. Troy, Karen said, voice sharp. What? He shot back, squeezing her shoulder. Ain't like it's news. Half the town knows I'm handling what you can't. I set my beer down slow. You want to take that outside? What, so you can get your ass handed to you in private? Troy stood, looming larger than he had sitting. I already got your wife in your house, man. What else you think I'm taking? His words hit like a sledge. The bar seemed to hold its breath. I gave a tight smile. Appreciate you spelling it out. What's that mean? Instead of swinging, I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording app I'd started when I walked in. Thanks, I said. That'll sound real clear for a judge. Troy's face shifted, eyes narrowing. You recording me? Public bar, no privacy expected. I slipped the phone into my pocket. But if you want to keep talking outside, I'm ready. Karen grabbed his arm. Troy, let's go. Nah, he said, shaking her off. This guy thinks he's clever. Let's see how clever he is. He shoved past me toward the door. I followed, half the bar trailing behind. The alley out back was tight, lit by a flickering bulb that cast a sickly glow. Troy rolled his shoulders, cracked his knuckles. You sure about this, old man? Old man? What are you, 40? 36, he sneered. And if you were my dad, I'd have learned better than to mess with me. He swung first, a wild haymaker. He was strong, sure, but gym bulk doesn't teach you street smarts. I dodged, grabbed his wrist, and used his own force to slam him into the wall. He bounced back, charging again. This time, I let him clip my jaw. Pain flared, but I stayed up. Then I drove a quick jab into his gut, doubling him over. What's going on here? Officer Curtis Reed stepped into the alley, hand on his baton. The cop, Officer Derek Walsh, looked maybe 30, sporting a thick beard that screamed he was trying to seem tougher than he felt. Everything all right here? He asked, eyeing us both. I smoothed out my jacket. No issue, officer. Just talking things over. Troy was still hunched over, gasping for air. This guy jumped me, he wheezed. That's so. Walsh turned to me, skeptical. He threw the first punch, I said. I just protected myself. Got folks who saw it. Troy jabbed a finger at the crowd, spilling out from Rusty's tavern. Tell him. But the onlookers shook their heads, muttering stuff like didn't catch it or seemed like a fair scrap. Walsh flipped on his body cam. Names? Troy Vance, the big guy spat. Mike Turner, I said. This about a lady? It's about respect, I shot back. Troy straightened, glaring. It's about him being a jealous fool who can't keep his wife happy. Walsh sighed like he'd heard this story 100 times. Mr. Vance, want to say that again for the camera? You heard me, Troy growled. I said I've already been with his wife in his own house, and he's got no play left. Walsh jotted something in his notebook. Mr. Turner, you pressing assault charges? I locked eyes with Troy, who looked ready to strangle me. Not tonight. You sure? Walsh pressed. Positive, I said, leaning in close to murmur. But hold on to that footage. He gave a slight nod. It'll be filed right. As Walsh walked off, Troy grabbed my arm. This ain't done, man. I glanced at his hand, then his face. You're damn right it's not. I flashed a grim smile. I'll press charges when it stings the most. Monday morning, I met Jenna on the steps of the Topeka courthouse. She carried a briefcase stuffed with documents and a grin like a hunter who'd bagged a prize buck. Got the no-contact order? I asked. Signed and ready, she said, handing me a folder. Troy Vance can't come within 500 feet of you, your house, or any work site you're on. What about Karen? Can't control who she spends time with. But if he breaks the order near you, he's cuffed on the spot. I skimmed the papers. Legal jargon, but the point was clear. Troy just got locked out of half the city. There's more, Jenna said, pulling another folder. Your brother Greg's shell companies? 3 of them snagged city contracts in the past 10 weeks. All no bid. All greenlit by Vince Russo. That's a conflict of interest, I said. At the very least, she smirked. I sent copies to the local paper. Anonymous tip from a concerned resident. We stepped into the courthouse, the air heavy with the scent of polished wood and buried secrets. At the clerk's desk, Jenna filed the restraining order and covered the fees. One more stop, she said. 20 minutes later, we sat in the office of Carver & Sons HR Solutions, the firm Karen's company used for personnel matters. Ms. Ellen Carver, a wiry woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen every office scandal twice, greeted us. Mr. Turner, what's this about? I slid a thick envelope across her desk. I need to report unprofessional conduct at work. She opened it, pulling out photos Jenna had snapped. Karen and Troy locking lips against his pickup in her office lot. Time-stamped 3:12 p.m. on a Wednesday, right during a budget meeting she was supposed to lead. Carver studied the images. This is Troy Vance, not an employee. Correct, I said. Jenna handed over another envelope. Text messages between Mrs. Turner and Mr. Vance, sent on company time from her work phone. Some include inappropriate images. Carver's face stayed stone cold, but her pen moved faster across her notepad. How'd you get these? Public records request, Jenna said smoothly, bending the truth. Vance posted them online with identifiable details. It was a stretch, but Carver wouldn't dig deeper without lawyers, and she had bigger fish to fry. I'll need to look into this, she said finally. How long? 10 days, maybe less. She met my eyes. Mr. Turner, this could impact your wife's job. I get it, I said. From Carver's office, I drove to Midwest Credit Union, where I'd banked for 20 years. The manager, Tom Wheeler, knew me well. Mike, good to see you, he said. What's up? Need to freeze the joint account and reroute my direct deposit. His smile faded. Freeze it? That could stir up trouble at home. Tom, my wife's running around with another guy and eyeing our savings. I'm guarding what's mine. His face flushed. Damn, Mike, I'm sorry. Not your fault. Can you make it happen? Yeah, but she'll know by tomorrow. Good. I signed the forms, shifted my deposits to a new account, and locked down our joint funds. $32,000 Karen couldn't touch now. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Greg. Mike, what the hell are you doing? Working, I said. You. Don't play dumb. This mess with Troy, with Karen's job, what's your deal? What's your deal? I shot back. You're torching everything to punish her. No, Greg. I'm torching everything to get at you. Silence on the line. Mike, you've got it all wrong. Do I? You funneled cash to Troy through your shell company, pushed Karen to find herself, played both ends. That's not... It is. I've got the paper trail. I was striding toward the courthouse, phone pressed to my ear. Why'd you do it? What was in it for you? God damn it, Mike, he muttered. It wasn't supposed to go like this. How was it supposed to go? His voice dropped low. You were meant to catch them, get pissed, divorce her fast, clean split, no lawyers, no fighting over money. I stopped dead. And then what? Then you'd need a fresh start, new business, clean slate. I had investors ready. Your investors? Yeah. Who'd take my crews, my gear, my office space, Greg? I'd go from owner to hired help. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I shoved through the courthouse doors. You wanted to buy me out cheap. You figured if I wouldn't sell, you'd tear me apart first, I said to Greg over the phone. I'm your brother. A brother wouldn't pull this, I shot back, then hung up. I headed to the clerk's office in the Topeka courthouse, where a deputy marshal waited with Troy's restraining order papers. He's downstairs, the deputy said, nodding toward the stairwell, hanging out near the restrooms. We rode the elevator down, and there was Troy, pacing by the men's room, thumbing his phone like it owed him money. He glanced up as we approached. What's this about? The deputy handed him the documents. You're served, Mr. Vance. No contact order. Troy skimmed the first page, his face twisting like he'd bitten into something sour. This is garbage. It's a court order, the deputy said flatly. Break it, you're in cuffs. I've got rights, Troy snapped. You've got the right to stay 500 feet away from Mr. Turner, the deputy said, pointing at me. That covers his home, his job sites, anywhere he's at. Troy balled up the papers. You think this changes a damn thing? I gave him a tight smile. We'll find out. He took a step toward me, then froze when he saw the deputy's eyes on him. This ain't finished, he growled. That sound like a threat? The deputy asked, eyebrow raised. Troy backed off, still glaring. We'll see who comes out on top. Game's already done, I said. You're just too thick to see it. As Troy stormed off, my phone pinged with a text from Karen. You froze our account? How am I supposed to cover bills? I typed back. Same way you're covering everything else? Ask your gym buddy. Her reply was instant. I'm not leaving you for him. This is just a phase. Then end it, I wrote. Can't. Won't. Greg says, she cut off mid-text. Then I'm done here. I pocketed the phone, feeling the trap tighten, one legal move at a time. That evening, Ellie found me in the garage, scribbling in my job log. Dad, Mom called, she said, hovering by the workbench. She's crashing at Aunt Linda's tonight. All right, I said, not looking up. She was crying. I set the pen down and met her eyes. Ellie's face was a mix of worry and confusion, like she was trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. You want to talk about what's going on? She dropped onto a stool, our go-to spot for heavy talks. Are you and Mom splitting up? I don't know. Do you want to? I want her to stop lying to me. What if she can't? I leaned back, surprised by the question. What do you mean? What if she's in too deep to back out? What if stopping means admitting she screwed up everything? At 16, my daughter was piecing together truths about pride and regret that took me 40 years to grasp. Then we'll see what comes next, I said. Her voice softened. Dad, whatever happens, I'm with you. I walked over and pulled her into a hug. She felt smaller than she had at 12, fragile in a way that broke my heart. I know, kiddo, I know. The old Maple Street warehouse had sat empty for 8 years, a crumbling shell under the gray Kansas sky. I'd been hired to scope it out for a possible teardown, which meant spending 4 hours inside with a clipboard and a camera, noting everything from structural beams to asbestos hazards. But through a cracked window, I spotted Greg's crew working the lot next door. My brother was barking orders at 3 guys in hard hats, pouring concrete for what looked like a small office, maybe 4,000 square feet. The permits tacked to the fence showed fast-tracked approval, stamped by Vince Russo's office. Expedited permits cost a premium and needed a good excuse: urgent repairs, public safety, or big economic projects. Greg's little setup didn't check any of those boxes. I snapped photos with my phone, making sure to catch the permit numbers and dates. Then I climbed to the warehouse's 3rd floor for a better view and saw the real issue. Greg's crew was half-assing the foundation. The footers were barely 2 feet deep, not the required 4 for Kansas soil. That building would start sinking in a year, condemned in 3. Sloppy work and deliberate. Greg was setting it up to fail. My phone buzzed. Ellie texting, Dad, Mom wants to meet at Willow Creek Park at 1 p.m. Says it's urgent. I checked the time. 12:20. I could make it if I hustled. But first, I had one more stop. The OSHA office was in a bland downtown building in Wichita, all glass and gray. I'd dealt with them twice before, once for a legit safety violation, once for a bogus complaint from a rival. Linda Chen ran the local branch, a sharp woman in her 50s who could spot a workplace hazard from a mile away. Mr. Turner, what's up? She asked as I walked in. I handed her the photos I'd printed at a copy shop. Unsafe construction at 1890 Maple Street. Shallow footers, 2 feet instead of 4, in unstable soil. Permits expedited, no valid reason listed. She flipped through the images, her face hardening. You got blueprints? Posted on the site's fence. Public record. She scribbled notes on a legal pad. I'll send an inspector out today. She glanced up. Is this your competition? My brother. Her eyebrows shot up. That's messy. Not for me, I said, and left. I pulled into Willow Creek Park, where Karen sat on a bench by the pond. She looked worn down, like the weight of everything had pressed her flat. Mike, she said, not standing as I walked up. Thanks for coming. I sat on the far end of the bench, leaving a gap between us. Ellie said it was important. Everything's falling apart, she murmured, barely audible. Whose fault is that? Mine, she said, so soft I almost missed it. All mine. We sat there watching the water ripple. A duck glided by, oblivious to the coal trucks rumbling in the distance, hauling loads for someone else's problems. I got suspended from work, Karen said finally. They're investigating. I know. The account's frozen. I know that too. Greg says you're trying to ruin me. Greg says a lot. She turned to me, eyes red and puffy. He says you hired a PI, that you're building a case to take everything in a divorce. You said no divorce, I reminded her. Your words, Karen. She went quiet, staring at the pond. The problem is, I can't stop seeing Troy. Can't or won't. Can't, she said, her voice cracking. Greg says if I back out now, if I come crawling back, you'll hold it over me forever. Proof I'm weak, that I can't make my own choices. Greg says that, huh? He says you're the kind of man who never lets go of a grudge. I stared at her, the words sinking in. And you buy that? I don't know what to believe anymore. A jogger huffed past, focused only on his next stride. I envied his simplicity. Karen, do you love Troy? She wiped her eyes. No. Do you love me? I don't know. Then why are we here? Because I'm terrified, she said. Terrified of admitting I was wrong, of throwing away 22 years for nothing. Karen's eyes were pleading, desperate. If I come home now, if I cut things off with Troy, can you forgive me? I mulled it over, really chewed on it. A month ago, I'd have said yes in a heartbeat. Now? I don't know, I admitted. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobs, tears spilling again. Then what am I supposed to do? Figure it out. I stood to walk away, and she grabbed my sleeve. Mike, please, I need help. Tell me what to do. I looked at her hand, then her face. I'm not your dad, Karen. Not your brother, not your therapist. You made your bed. Lie in it. I shook free and headed out. That night, Ellie found me in the garage, scribbling in my job log. How'd it go with Mom? She asked, leaning against the workbench. Not great. She called me, crying, said you won't help her fix this. I set my pen down. Ellie, you remember when you were 11 and smashed Mr. Donovan's window with your baseball? Yeah. What did I tell you to do? Go say sorry and pay for it with my birthday cash. Did I go with you? No. You said I had to own my mistakes alone. She paused, thinking. This is different. How? Mom's not a kid. She's 42. Makes it worse. Ellie sank onto her usual stool. Dad, can I ask you something? Go for it. When you and Mom got married, did you vow to love her no matter what? The question hit like a hammer. I vowed to love her for better or worse. Isn't this the worst part? I looked at my daughter, so young yet seeing through the lies grown-ups tell themselves. Yeah, kiddo, this is the worst part. So, shouldn't you love her anyway? I shook my head. Love doesn't mean letting someone tear you apart, Ellie. It's about being your best for them, even when they stop trying. When they quit, you gotta decide if you can keep loving someone who's given up. She went quiet, chewing on that. Have you decided? I'm working on it. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mike Turner. Mr. Turner. Linda Chen from OSHA. We checked that site you flagged. And? Exactly what you said. Footers too shallow, cheap concrete, no soil prep. Stop work orders issued. Good. There's more. Permits were filed under false pretenses. We're pushing the city attorney for fraud charges. I grinned. Thanks for the update. Your brother's gonna know you reported this. I'm banking on it. The next morning, Greg called at 5:30 a.m. You bastard! Morning, brother. OSHA killed my project. 4 months of work, gone. Maybe follow the damn codes next time. This is about Karen, isn't it? You're torching my life because your wife wanted something new. No, Greg. This is about you funding Troy to wreck my marriage and setting up shell companies to siphon my contracts. I've got the receipts. LLCs, bank transfers, forged permit signatures. Want to keep playing or talk like men? Silence hung heavy. What do you want? I want to know why my own brother tried to gut my life. It wasn't personal. It's all personal. Mike, listen. No, you listen. Karen's suspended, pending a workplace probe. Your pal Troy's facing harassment charges. Your project's dead and I'm just warming up. You're unhinged. I'm thorough. Big difference. I hung up and got back to work. Friday afternoon, I was back at the Maple Street warehouse, but not alone. Vince Russo climbed out of his city sedan, clipboard in hand, looking like he was here to ruin someone's day. Turner, he said, strolling up to the warehouse entrance, where I'd been working since dawn. Heard you've been busy. Always am. Got a complaint about unsafe practices here. From who? Anonymous tip, he said, his smile thin as a razor. Says you're skimping on the asbestos survey. I set my camera down. That's funny. I haven't touched the asbestos work yet. That's next week. His smirk faltered. Well, maybe the complaint's proactive. Or maybe it's nonsense. Watch it, Turner. One call, and I shut this job down. And I can file a harassment complaint with your boss. Want to bet who comes out on top? We locked eyes across the cracked pavement. Vince had clout, but he'd overreached. Just do your job, he muttered, walking off. Always do, I called after him. I climbed to the warehouse's 4th floor and snapped photos of Greg's site below. The stop work order was still up, but fresh tire marks in the dirt told me someone was sneaking work in defiance of OSHA. My phone rang. Dad, get home, Ellie said, voice tight. What's wrong? Mom's here, with Troy. I was in my truck and flooring it before she finished, hitting our street in 7 minutes, breaking every speed limit from Maple Street to home. Troy's pickup sat in our driveway like he owned the place. Inside, Karen was on the couch, where she used to read Ellie bedtime stories. Troy stood by our mantel, hands in his pockets, looking too damn comfortable. Mike, Karen said, standing, we need to talk. Get him out of my house. He has a right to be here. No, he doesn't. I pulled out my phone. He's breaking a restraining order, just standing there. Troy laughed, a low, mocking sound. That order don't apply to your wife's house. It's our house. And I'm telling you to leave. Make me. I looked at Karen. You want him here? I want us to sort this out like grown-ups. Grown-ups don't bring their sidekicks home to negotiate with their husbands. Troy stepped closer. Maybe grown-ups don't let their wives look for better options. Then Ellie appeared at the top of the stairs. Mom, what's going on? Karen's face drained of color. Ellie, go to your room. Why is he here? Troy grinned up at her, the kind of look that made my fists clench. Hey, kiddo, I'm Troy, your mom's friend? I know who you are, Ellie said, voice like ice. You're why my parents are fighting. Ellie, Karen snapped. Upstairs. No. Ellie descended slow and deliberate, brushing past Troy to stand by me. This is my house too, she said. Dad's right. You don't belong here. Troy's face hardened. Little girl, you don't know what you're talking about. I know plenty, she shot back. Ellie, stop, Karen said, but my daughter wasn't done. I know you've been texting Mom for 2 months straight. I know Uncle Greg set you two up, Ellie said, her voice cutting through the silence like a saw through wood. I know you bragged to your gym buddies about winning over a married woman. I heard you. The living room went still, the air thick. When? I asked. Last Saturday, when Mom took me for milkshakes after her gym session, Ellie said, steady as a level. We stopped at the convenience store by Iron Pulse. Troy was out front talking to his crew. He didn't spot us. Troy's face flushed, a deep, angry red. You little... Don't, I said, stepping between him and Ellie. Don't even think about finishing that. Mike, Karen said, voice shaking. She's making it up. No, Mom, I'm not. Ellie held up her phone. I recorded it. She hit play, and Troy's voice crackled through, boasting to someone about his married project and how he was giving her what her husband couldn't. Karen's face collapsed, like a wall giving way. You recorded him? Had to, Ellie said. Knew you wouldn't believe me otherwise. Troy lunged for the phone. Hand that over. I grabbed his wrist before he could get close to my daughter. Not happening. Let go. Leave now, I said, or I call Officer Walsh and tell him you're violating a restraining order while threatening a kid. Troy glanced around, at Karen's tears, Ellie's defiant glare, me standing like a brick wall between him and everything he thought he could claim. This ain't done, he snarled. It's done, I said. He stomped to the door, then turned back. Karen, you coming? She looked at him, then Ellie, then me. I need time to think. Think quick, Troy snapped. I ain't waiting while you play family with these nobodies. The door slammed, his engine growled, tires screeched, and he was gone. Karen sank onto the couch, heavy. How did I let this happen? You chose it, I said, sitting across from her. Ellie still at my side. I thought Greg said Troy was different, that he cared about me. Greg lied. Why? Because he wanted our business. Wanted me broke and desperate so he could buy me out for nothing. You were just his leverage. Karen's eyes welled up again. I'm such an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're 42, and let yourself get played by guys who saw you coming from a mile off. She flinched, like I'd swung at her. Mom, Ellie said softly, are you still seeing him? I don't know. Because if you are, I'm staying with Dad. Karen's head snapped up. Ellie, I mean it. I won't live in a house where you bring him around. You can't pick between your parents. I'm not picking between parents. I'm picking between my mom and the woman who's been acting like someone else for 2 months. The words hung heavy, like dust after a demolition. Karen broke down sobbing, and this time, I didn't feel a twinge of pity. That evening, after Karen left for her sisters, I was updating my job log when my phone rang. Jenna, I said. Mike, we've got a big problem, she said. Bigger than what we've been dealing with. Lay it out. I was digging through Greg's financials, cross-checking his shell companies with bank records. He's been siphoning pension contributions from his workers to prop up Troy's gym. I set my pen down. How much? 52 grand, maybe more. Damn, it gets worse? Yeah. The gym lease isn't just backed by Greg. It's tied to a pension fund for half the county's construction workers. Meaning? If the gym tanks, it drags the fund down with it. 400 families lose their retirement. I shut my eyes, the weight settling in. How long's this been running? 8 months, at least. Who else knows? Just us for now. Jenna, we end this tonight. Rain started at dusk, turning the streets of Wichita into slick, glowing mirrors. I parked outside Iron Pulse, watching the last few gym rats slip out into the storm. Troy's pickup idled under a streetlight, engine running. Through the gym's window, I saw him hustling, hauling boxes and gear to his truck, stuffing papers into trash bags. He was bolting. I called Jenna. He's clearing out the gym. Probably got tipped off about the pension probe, she said. How? Greg called him half an hour ago. I've been tapping the gym's landline. Where's he headed? Mexico if he's smart. Canada if he's desperate. I fired up my truck. I'm tailing him. Mike, let the cops handle it. Cops don't know about the pension money yet. They will by morning. Morning's too late. Troy came out lugging a laptop bag and a small lockbox. He tossed them in his pickup, slammed the tailgate, and peeled out. I followed, keeping 3 cars back as the rain pounded harder, turning my windshield into a blurry mess. He drove past the shopping center, past the highway exit, toward the old industrial zone by the river. I knew his destination, the boat ramp at Willow Creek Park. Plenty of ways to vanish from there with a boat ready. At the ramp, Troy parked beside a beat-up skiff tied to the dock. He started moving boxes from his truck to the boat, working fast despite the downpour. I parked 100 yards off and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Mike Turner at Willow Creek Park boat ramp. Guy here's fleeing with stolen goods. Stolen goods? Pension funds, about 50 grand. His name's Troy Vance, and he's about to slip down the river. Stay in your vehicle, sir. Officers are en route. I hung up, stepped out, and walked toward him. Troy saw me coming, set a box down, and squared up. Now, what the hell you doing here? Same as you, leaving town. I ain't leaving, just moving some stuff. To Mexico? His eyes narrowed. You don't know shit. I know you've been stealing pension money to keep your gym afloat. I know Greg's been helping you, and I know you're running like a coward. Troy dropped the box and stepped toward me. Coward? You heard me. He swung, a wild right hook that missed by a foot. I grabbed his arm, spun him, and shoved him toward the dock. He stumbled, caught himself, and came back swinging. This time, he landed a solid hit to my chest, knocking the air out of me. But the wet dock betrayed him. His foot slipped, and he went down hard, arms flailing. He hit the water with a splash that echoed off the concrete ramp. The river was swollen from spring rains, cold and fast as black ink. Help! Troy thrashed, fighting the current. I stepped to the dock's edge, spotting a coil of rope, maybe 15 feet in decent shape. I tied one end to a post and tossed the other toward him. It landed a foot short. Closer, he yelled, panic setting in as his soaked clothes dragged him down. I pulled the rope back and threw it again. This time, it hit right in front of him. He lunged for it, hands clawing, and I let the knot slip from the post. Troy went under, surfaced, gasping, then went under again. The current swept him toward the old warehouse pilings, where the water ran deep and fierce between concrete supports. I stood on the dock, rope in hand, watching him battle the river. Blue lights sliced through the rain as Officer Curtis Reed's cruiser skidded into the Willow Creek Park lot. What's happening here? He shouted, sprinting toward the water, his flashlight beam cutting across the choppy river. Guy fell in, I said, tried to help. Reed kicked off his shoes and dove in without a second thought. He was a strong swimmer, state finalist back in high school, and he reached Troy just before the current dragged him into the concrete pilings. They hauled themselves to shore, Troy hacking up water and shaking like a soaked mutt. You good? Reed asked, helping him sit up. He tried to kill me. Troy pointed at me, hand trembling. Threw the rope short on purpose. Reed turned to me, eyes sharp. That true? I tossed it twice and I said, River's running hard tonight. You see him fall? Saw him get up after swinging at me and slip on the wet dock. I held up my hands. Check my knuckles if you want. Didn't touch him. Reed shined his light on Troy's face. No cuts, no bruises, just river water and embarrassment. What were you doing here, Mr. Vance? Moving stuff, Troy muttered. To where? Troy hesitated. Storage. It's my boat. Reed walked to the pickup, his flashlight sweeping the interior. Boxes of papers, a laptop, bank statements strewn across the back seat. Whose laptop? Mine, Troy said, but his voice cracked. Reed squinted at the label. Says property of Carver and Sons on it. Troy's face went pale. I can explain. Both of you downtown, Reed said. At the Wichita police station, they split us into separate rooms. I spent 3 hours answering questions. What I saw, what I did, why I was at the boat ramp in a storm. When they cut me loose, Troy was still locked up. The laptop belonged to Karen's company, and the files in his truck were pension records and financial documents he had no business touching. Mr. Turner, Reed said, catching me in the hall. That recording from the bar last week? Yeah? Vance said some things about your wife and your home he probably regrets now. Bet he does. We'll be in touch. I drove home through the downpour, thinking about Troy in a cell, Karen waiting for a call that wasn't coming, Greg watching his schemes collapse one permit at a time. Numbers don't lie. People do. Monday morning, I was sipping coffee in the kitchen when the newspaper hit my porch with a soggy thud. The headline screamed, Local contractor tied to pension scam. The story, front page, had photos of Greg's job site and a mugshot that made him look like a trapped animal. The reporter had dug deep. Shell companies, forged permits, siphoned funds, the whole mess. My phone started buzzing at 6:30 a.m. and didn't quit. "Mike, it's Tom Wheeler from the bank," the first call came. "Can you come in today? We've got issues with your brother's accounts. FBI's asking questions." FBI? Pension fraud's federal, Mike. They want to talk to anyone who knows about Greg's business. I poured another coffee. "I'll be there at 10. Next call was Linda Chen from OSHA. "Channel 5 wants to interview you about the violations at Greg's site." What should I say? Whatever you want. It's public now. At 10:15, I sat in Tom's office as two FBI agents grilled me. They were calm, sharp, like accountants with badges. "Did you know about your brother's pension fund dealings?" Agent Laura Bennett asked. "Not a clue." "Ever suspect financial issues in his business?" "Knew he was cutting corners. Didn't know he was robbing workers' retirements." "When did you learn about shell companies?" "Last week, when my investigator found them." Bennett scribbled notes. "You hired an investigator for personal reasons?" "Yeah. My wife was involved with Troy Vance, the guy nabbed at the boat ramp." The agents shared a look. "Did you know Vance was funded by your brother's companies?" "Found out last week." "How'd that make you feel?" I glanced out the window at reporters setting up in the parking lot. Like my brother cared more about tanking my marriage than protecting his workers' futures. That afternoon, I was back at the Maple Street warehouse when Karen called. "Mike, I need to see you." "I'm working. Please, it's urgent." "More urgent than last time?" "I got fired." I set down my clipboard. "When?" "This morning. HR cited policy violations, misuse of company tech, and conduct unbecoming." Her voice trembled. 22 years with them, Mike. "Your benefits?" "Gone. No severance, no health coverage, nothing." I stepped outside, the river glinting like spilled motor oil under a cloudy sky. "Where are you?" "In my car, in the lot of my old office, watching them swap the locks on my department." "Troy?" "Still in jail. Can't make bail. Greg's not answering." I could hear her crying, soft and broken, the kind of sound that might have moved me a month ago. "Karen," I said, "yeah? Remember Memorial Day when you said you needed to feel wanted again?" "Mike, how's that going for you?" Silence, just her sobs. "I messed up. You chose this. Can it be both?" "Not now." I hung up and got back to work. That evening, the local news led with Greg's scandal. The reporter, young and ambitious, tore into it. Sources say Gregory Turner may have funneled up to $80,000 from employee pensions to bankroll personal projects, including a local gym and real estate ventures. They showed drone footage of Greg's job site, deserted except for police tape and idle equipment. Mr. Turner declined to comment, but his lawyer denies all claims. My phone rang. "Greg, are you happy now, Mike?" "Getting there. I lost it all. Company, contracts, my name." "Your workers lost their retirement savings," I said to Greg over the phone. "You gonna pay them back with pocket change?" "The projects would have covered it all, and then some," he snapped. "What projects? The one OSHA killed for cutting corners? That gym is bleeding cash every month?" He went quiet for a beat. "How'd you know about the gym's books?" "Same way I found out about the pensions. Ask the right folks the right questions." "You ruined me, Mike. You ruined yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it." "What about family? Loyalty?" "Yeah, what about it? A brother wouldn't mess with my marriage to steal my business. I was trying to help you. Help me lose my wife, my home, my company, all at once. Help you start fresh, new beginning, clean slate. With you holding all the aces." Silence stretched long. "Mike, I'm sorry." "Too late for that, Greg. You got nothing left I want." I hung up and powered off my phone. Tuesday morning, I signed the papers to close the deal. The house sold in 3 hours to a developer planning to bulldoze it for apartments. Cash offer, no inspection, no haggling. I took 65% of the asking price and walked away free. Karen was in the driveway when the moving truck rolled up. "You can't do this," she said, voice cracking. "Already done." She watched two guys in overalls haul our recliner out the front door. "This is my home." "Was your home? You signed the quitclaim deed." "I was drunk when I signed that." "You were sober when you brought Troy into our lives." The words hit her like a brick. She staggered back, hand covering her mouth. "The neighbors are staring," I said low. She glanced around. Mrs. Callahan stood on her lawn holding a mug. The Wilsons faked interest in their garden. Old Mr. Novak leaned on his porch railing. "They all know, don't they?" "Small town, Karen. Word spreads. The movers came back for the kitchen table, the one Karen spent months picking out for our 12th anniversary. measuring every inch to make it perfect. Now it was just another piece of cargo. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem anymore. Mike, please. Please what? Pretend the last 2 months didn't happen? Take you back so you can do it again next year? I won't do it again. You said you wouldn't do it the first time. Ellie stepped out, lugging a duffel bag and her laptop case. She'd chosen to stay with me for now, until things settled and she could figure out her next move. Ready, Dad? Almost. Karen's eyes locked on Ellie, desperate. You don't have to pick sides. I'm not picking sides, Mom, Ellie said. I'm picking self-respect. Her words echoed mine, but she said them with a fire I hadn't mustered in weeks. Troy's pickup roared onto our street, engine loud enough to rattle windows. He parked behind the moving truck and stormed out, face twisted with fury. What the hell's this? My house, sold to someone who will value it, I said. You can't sell Karen's house. It's not hers. She signed it over last week. Troy turned to Karen. You signed what? I was drunk, she mumbled, like saying it twice made it true. Drunk or not, you signed. I handed Troy a copy of the deed. Have a lawyer check it. He crumpled the paper. This is nonsense. This is business. You think you won? I know I did. He stepped toward me, then froze as Officer Reed's cruiser pulled onto the street. Gentlemen, Reed said, stepping out, hand on his radio. Everything all right? All good, I said. Mr. Vance, any issues? Troy glanced at the moving truck, the neighbors peeking from their windows, Karen crying in the driveway. No issues, he muttered. Good. Reed nodded at me. Have a good day, Mr. Turner. As the cruiser rolled off, Troy grabbed Karen's arm. Let's go. She yanked free. Don't touch me. What? I said don't touch me. Her voice grew steady. You used me to get cash from Greg. I heard the recording Ellie made. Troy's face reddened. Your kid's a little... I crossed the driveway in 2 strides, grabbing his collar. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to make him listen. Don't talk about my daughter. Get off me. Don't even look at her. Mike, Karen said, tugging my arm. Let him go. I released him and stepped back. Troy rubbed his neck, glaring with pure venom. This ain't over. It's over. You think ruining everything makes you a winner? Protecting what matters makes me a man. Troy looked around at the moving truck, Karen standing apart, Ellie watching from the porch. To hell with all of you. He jumped in his pickup and peeled out, tires squealing on the damp pavement. Karen was still crying. What do I do now? Same thing you've been doing. Figure it out. I've got nowhere to go. Call your sister. Call your mom. Call Troy. He won't even look at me now. Can't say I blame him. She flinched. That's harsh. That's real. The movers handed me a clipboard to sign, our life together reduced to a checklist and a bill of lading. As they drove off, my phone buzzed with a text from Jenna. Found something huge. Greg's been using pension funds for 9 months. Total stolen. $142,000. Meet me tonight. I showed it to Ellie. Dad, this is getting intense. Yeah, it is. Are you okay with that? I looked at our empty house, Karen lost in the driveway, neighbors still gawking. I'm fine with it. Why? Because intense means it's almost done. That night, Jenna called with the final pieces. Your brother's been covering the pension theft with loans from 4 banks, all personally guaranteed. Meaning? When the feds freeze his accounts tomorrow, those loans get called in. Greg's facing bankruptcy and federal charges. Troy? Still in the county. Bail set at $60,000. Karen? Jobless, homeless, broke. I sat in my truck outside our old house, watching the windows go dark one by one. The demolition crew will start next week. Jenna, we wrap this up tonight. The storm cleared at dusk, leaving the air crisp, smelling of wet asphalt and second chances. I pulled into the lot across from Greg's warehouse, on Cedar Lane, where streetlights threw long shadows over the loading bays. An hour earlier, I'd sent 3 texts from burner phones, courtesy of Jenna's stash. To Greg, I'll cover the pension funds. Meet me at the warehouse. To Karen, Troy's with me. Come get him before he does something dumb. To Troy's cousin Nate, Troy needs bail money. Meet him at Greg's warehouse. Now, I sat in my truck, watching them roll in one by one. Greg arrived first, parking his truck by the office entrance. At 47, he looked worn down, like the weight of his schemes had aged him a decade. Karen showed up 10 minutes later in her sister's sedan, parking at the lot's edge, hesitating behind the wheel, probably debating whether to face what waited inside. Nate pulled in last, his beat-up Mustang coughing like it was on its last legs. He parked between them, climbed out, and trudged toward the warehouse, like a man headed to a firing squad. I waited until all 3 were inside, then slipped across the street and entered through a side door. The warehouse was mostly bare, some stacks of lumber, a few pieces of office furniture Greg had stashed since his business imploded. Overhead lights cast stark yellow pools on the concrete floor. Greg stood near his office, hands shoved in his pockets, looking lost. "Mike, you said Troy was here." I lied. Karen stepped out from behind a pile of plywood. "Where's Troy?" "County lockup." "You said he was with you." "Lied to you too." Nate emerged from the shadows near the loading dock, shorter than Troy but built like a tank, with scars that screamed bar fights or worse. "Where's my cousin?" "Same place, jail." "Then why the hell am I here?" "Good question." I flipped on the office's main lights, and the warehouse blazed like a ballpark at night, every corner exposed, every shadow gone. "What's this about, Mike?" Greg asked, voice tight. "The truth." I opened my job log and read from 3 weeks of notes. May 15th, Karen leaves with Troy Vance. Investigation uncovers Greg funding Troy's gym through a shell company. May 20th, Troy attacks me in an alley outside Rusty's Tavern. Admits to being with Karen in our home. Caught on police body cam. May 22nd, Greg's job site shut down for code violations and permit fraud. May 24th, Troy tries to bolt with stolen pension funds and company property, nabbed at the boat ramp. May 28th, FBI digs up Greg's theft of $142,000 from workers' pensions to prop up his side ventures. The warehouse fell silent, save for the buzz of the lights. "And today, May 30th, I continued, the three of you meet here to figure out your next move." Karen stared at me like I'd sprouted horns. "Conspirators?" "You, Greg, Troy. The trio who decided my life was worth less than your own agendas." "It wasn't like that," Greg said. "Then tell me what it was." "It was supposed to be easy," he said, voice low. "Karen has her fling, you catch them. She feels guilty, agrees to a quick divorce. No lawyers, no asset fights, clean split. Then you'd be strapped for cash, needing work. I'd offer you a job, maybe a stake in the new company down the line." "Your company," I said, "not ours. That's crap." Nate's eyes darted between us like he was watching a boxing match. "What the hell are you people talking about?" "Family business," I said. "This is nuts," Karen muttered, edging toward the door. "I'm out." "No, you're not." She stopped. "You can't keep me here." "I'm not. You're staying because you want to know how this ends." "I know how it ends. You win, we lose, everyone's miserable. That's not the end." I walked to Greg's office, picked up the desk phone, dialed 911, and left the line open. "Mike, what are you doing?" Greg asked, voice cracking. "Finishing this." That's when Nate pulled a knife, a folding blade maybe 5 inches, the kind you'd use to cut drywall or strip wire. Nothing flashy, but sharp enough to hurt. "Nobody's calling the cops," he growled. "Nate," Greg started. "Shut it." Nate pointed the blade at me. "My cousin's locked up because of you. His life's trashed." "Your cousin trashed his own life by messing with a married woman." "That's just another day," Nate spat. "By stealing pension money and running like a coward?" Nate's face twisted. "Troy didn't steal nothing." "Check the evidence locker. Laptop, bank records, 50 grand in cash. That his?" "No, it wasn't." Nate lunged, knife flashing. He was quick, but his stance gave him away. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and sent him crashing into a stack of crates. The knife skittered across the concrete. Nate came up swinging, wild and off balance. I landed a quick jab to his jaw, and he dropped, out cold. "Jesus, Mike," Greg said, staring at Nate's limp form. "You could have killed him." I pulled it. "This is insane. This is justice." Karen inched toward the door again. "I'm leaving." "Karen, hold on," Greg said, stepping between her and the exit. "We need to talk." "About what?" "The truth." Greg glanced at me, then back at her. "Why I really set up Troy." The warehouse went quiet again. "I didn't want Mike sniffing around the business," Greg said slowly. "I'd been skimming pension funds for 10 months. Mike's too straight, too careful with the numbers." "He'd have caught me sooner or later," Greg said, his voice low. Karen's face paled like the blood had drained out of her. "So, you decided to wreck his marriage?" "I needed to keep him distracted," Greg admitted. "Something personal to chew on so he wouldn't poke into the company's books." "You used me," Karen said, her voice breaking. "Used both of you." I stepped to the desk, picked up the open 911 line. "This is Mike Turner at 1890 Cedar Lane, reporting embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy." "Sir, are you in danger?" the operator asked. "Not anymore." I hung up and faced Greg and Karen. "Here's the kicker. I trusted you both completely." "Karen, I thought you were just having a midlife slump." "Greg, I figured you were trying to help me save my marriage." "Mike," Karen started, eyes wet. "I never—" "You two were working together to gut me." Greg's shoulders slumped. It wasn't supposed to go like this. How was it supposed to go? You'd catch them early, get mad, push for a divorce. Karen would feel bad, agree to split everything even. You'd walk away with enough cash to start over somewhere else. Far away, I said. So you could siphon the pension fund without anyone noticing. Just borrowing it, Greg said. To get the new projects off the ground. I'd have paid it back. Karen stared at him like he was a stranger. You told me Mike was controlling, that I'd never find myself unless I pushed back. I told you what you needed to hear. You said Troy cared about me. Troy cared about the cash I was feeding him. How much? Greg looked away. $2,500 a month to keep you hooked, plus dinners, gifts, whatever it took. Karen staggered back, hand on her chest like she'd been punched. I was a job? A job to both of us, Greg said. Karen sank onto a crate, face buried in her hands. God, what have I done? You did what Greg told you to do, I said. Same as Troy. But I chose it, she whispered. Chose to leave you, hurt you, tear our family apart. Yeah, you did. Tears streamed down her face as she looked up. Can you forgive me? I waited, really let it sit. A month ago, I'd have said yes without a second thought. I don't know, I said. What's that mean? Forgiveness isn't trust. Without trust, there's nothing to rebuild. Sirens wailed closer, red and blue lights flashing through the warehouse windows. Mike, Greg said, you don't have to do this. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family. Mistakes are accidents. This was calculated. The warehouse doors flew open and cops stormed in, guns drawn. Police, hands up! I raised mine. I'm Mike Turner, I called it in. Officer Reed was first through the door, scanning the scene. Nate out cold on the floor, Karen trembling on the crate, Greg with his hands raised. What went down? Confession, I said. All on the 911 tape. How? I nodded at the desk phone. Line's been open 15 minutes. Everything's recorded. Jesus, Greg muttered. 2 detectives took statements, while medics checked Nate, who stirred, more humiliated than hurt. Karen sat in the back of an ambulance, not injured, but shaking too hard to stand. A female officer took notes as Karen spoke, voice low and broken. I watched from the lot as they loaded Greg into a cruiser. His eyes met mine through the window, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. Real, raw fear. Mr. Turner, Detective Harold Vance said, approaching. He was tall, gray-haired, with the calm of someone who'd heard every lie in the book. Care to explain what really happened? I wanted the truth. I got it. By setting up a trap? By giving them enough space to trip over their own lies. Vance jotted in a notebook. Your brother's facing federal charges. Embezzlement. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. I know. Your wife? I glanced at Karen in the ambulance, staring into nothing, like she'd just snapped out of a bad dream. She was a victim, too. That's generous. It's accurate. She made bad calls, but Greg fed her lies to make them. Vance closed his notebook. We'll need a formal statement tomorrow. I'll be there. As the cops wrapped up and the ambulances pulled out, I stood alone in the lot with Karen. Mike? Her voice was small. Yeah? What happens now? I looked at the warehouse. Police tape, evidence markers, shards of glass where Nate's knife had been crushed underfoot. Now you figure out how to live with what you've done, I said to Karen. What about us? There is no us. But if I get help, if I sort out why I let Greg manipulate me, Karen, stop! Her eyes were desperate. I know I hurt you. I know I tore down everything we built. But people can change, right? I thought about 22 years of marriage, Ellie's birth, our first fixer-upper, the way Karen used to crack up at my dumb puns. People can change, I said. But I can't forget. You won't even try? I tried for a month. Tried to understand, to forgive, to find a way through. But every time I see you, I picture you climbing into that pickup on Memorial Day, choosing him over me, over our family, over everything we worked for. I was lost, she said. You were selfish. The words hung heavy, like dust after a wrecking ball. So this is it? Karen asked, her voice barely a whisper. I nodded. What about Ellie? Ellie's 16. She'll decide for herself. She's not a kid anymore. I love her. I know you do. Will she ever forgive me? That's between you two. Karen walked to her sister's car and slid behind the wheel. She started the engine but didn't shift gears. Mike? Yeah? For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know, it's worth exactly what it costs. She drove off without another word. I stood in the empty lot, the hum of distant traffic mixing with the rhythm of my own breath. The warehouse loomed smaller now, like a structure that had done its job and was ready to come down. My phone buzzed. A text from Ellie. "Dad, you okay?" I typed back, "I'm good, headed home." "Home? The motel?" "Our temporary spot." "Did you get them?" "Got them all." "Proud of you." I stared at the screen, then replied, "Proud of you too." As I drove toward town, I glanced at the job log on the passenger seat. 25 pages of notes, dates, numbers, a record of a marriage collapsing, a family fracturing, but also of a man who wouldn't let others' choices define him. I'd started it a month ago to track the damage. Now it felt like a plan for rebuilding. The motel room was basic but clean. 2 beds, a view of the parking lot. Ellie sat at the small table by the window, tapping away at her laptop, working on school stuff. "How'd it go?" she asked, looking up. "It went." "You gonna tell me?" Greg admitted to stealing pension funds. Karen knew Troy was being paid to pull her in. Both are facing charges. Troy's still in jail, probably for a while. Ellie nodded, returning to her screen. After a moment, she said, "Dad? Yeah? You sad about it? Mom, Uncle Greg? Everything falling apart?" I sat on my bed, letting the question settle. "I'm sad about what they chose, not about what happens next." "Is that wrong?" "Don't think so." "Good. I'm not sad either." We ordered pizza and flipped on the TV, 2 people starting fresh in a room that smelled of bleach and fleeting hopes. At 10:30, Ellie hit the sack. I sat by the window, adding the last entries to my job log. May 30th, confrontation at warehouse. Greg confesses to pension fraud and conspiracy. Karen admits knowledge of payment scheme. Both arrested, case closed. Outcome: marriage gone, family broken, business wrecked, brother's life in ruins, wife's life in pieces, collateral damage, heavy, regrets, none. I closed the log and tucked it into my bag. Tomorrow I'd start a new one. New job, new life, new problems to tackle. For the first time in a month, I felt something settle in me. Peace. The kind that comes from staring down the worst people can do and coming out whole. The kind that comes from refusing to let their failures become yours. Outside, Wichita slept. Inside, Ellie breathed softly, dreaming whatever 16-year-olds dream when their world crumbles and rebuilds in a month. I thought about Karen, probably awake at her sister's, wrestling with how she lost it all in 30 days. I thought about Greg in a cell, counting the years he'd pay for his choices. I thought about Troy, learning what it's like to be prey instead of predator. And I thought about the house I'd sold, set to be raised next week for something new. Sometimes demolition is just construction in disguise. Sometimes the only way to build better is to clear the old. Sometimes the guy swinging the hammer isn't the bad guy. He's the one with the blueprint. I turned off the light and climbed into bed. For the first time in a month, I slept through the night, no dreams of vengeance. Because revenge, I'd learned, wasn't about crushing your enemies. It was about not letting them crush you.